Welcome to the deep dive. We take material you send us and really try to dig into it, pull out the key ideas.
That's right.
And today we've got a piece sent in called When God Cancels a Promise. It tackles something pretty deep. What happens when our faith-based expectations seem to collide with reality?
Yeah, it's a really honest piece, very personal. It focuses on the author's own experience with a rice harvest and deciding whether to replant.
Okay.
They asked for guidance, felt they got a reassuring sign, but then, well, things didn't quite go to plan. Unexpected problems cropped up.
Right. So it's really about navigating faith when the path forward suddenly looks different.
Exactly. That core tension.
Okay, let's get into that. So the author needs direction on replanting rice, feels they get a positive signal, this sense of like divine provision.
That's the starting point. Hope, assurance. Feels like the right path.
Which makes total sense. You feel you've got the green light,
Yeah, and it's not just their plan. They feel it's aligned with something bigger. There's this sense of divine backing.
But then, the turn. Things start looking bad, despite that initial feeling. It looks like the seedlings might actually be damaged.
Yes. And that's the gut-wrenching part, as you said earlier. This is where that faith gets really put to the test.
And that question, why, Lord? I mean, that just feels so human, right? When what is happening doesn't match what you thought would happen.
Absolutely. It's that fundamental struggle. How do you reconcile those two things? Your belief and the facts on the ground.
What's really striking, though, is what the author does next. They don't just give in to doubt. They make a conscious choice, it seems.
They do. They choose to keep trusting, to hold on to that initial promise, sort of believing things could still turn around.
That's a big step. It's not passive belief, is it?
Not at all. It's active. It's choosing to lean in even when maybe the visible evidence points the other way. That internal wrestling, it's part of the journey for many people.
Right. So then we get this moment, an early morning revelation. The author's doing their devotional time. Feels like something's coming.
Yeah, like God is preparing something specific for them. That quiet time, that reflection, it often opens us up, doesn't it?
It can, yeah. Creates a space.
A receptive state, exactly. And then they encounter this devotional Jesus calling.
Ah, okay. And there's a specific line that hits home.
A really pivotal line. I am your Lord. Seek me as friend and lover of your soul, but remember that I am also King of Kings, sovereign over all.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty direct. A reminder of who's ultimately in control.
Exactly. It shifts the focus. Yes, there's the personal relationship, but it's within this bigger picture of ultimate authority. Sovereignty. That becomes the key lens here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
God's supreme power and right to rule.
That's how the author starts reinterpreting things, yes. And then they're guided towards a specific Bible verse.
Right.
Proverbs 19.21. There are many plans in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the purpose of the Lord is what will stand.
Okay. And that felt like it spoke directly to their situation. That conflict between their hopes and the reality they were facing. It seems so. It directly addresses that tension, doesn't it? Our plans versus maybe a different divine purpose. The author felt it was a personal message.
So putting that together, the core message they receive is that sometimes God might actually withhold or change an expected outcome, even if it seems like a promise.
That's the understanding they arrive at, yes.
And the reason given is to demonstrate this higher sovereignty and to foster humility, but a specific kind of humility.
Right. The author mentions God's version of humility, suggesting it's maybe often misinterpreted by us.
What do you think they mean by that? Misinterpreted how?
Well, maybe it's less about, putting yourself down constantly and more about recognizing our limited view, acknowledging we don't see the whole picture compared to this siren plan. It's a deeper kind of perspective shift, perhaps.
And the author draws a contrast, suggesting that while, say, the unrighteous might seem to prosper outwardly, those considered chosen might face these specific withholdings precisely to cultivate that deeper humility. That's a very particular interpretation, this chosen one idea.
It is, and it's important we frame it as the author's understanding in this context. It's their way of making sense of why they might be facing this using their faith framework, this unique recipe, as they call it.
Okay, so for this chosen one, the focus shifts. It's about trying to see God's hand, even in the negative stuff, and seeking to understand the purpose behind it.
Exactly. Reframing the challenge. The author suggests this whole difficult season isn't about getting what you wanted immediately.
Right.
It's actually an opportunity.
An opportunity for what?
To understand God's sovereignty on a deeper level. to grasp his purpose, which the author presents as being much more significant than just getting the seedlings to grow.
Right. That makes sense in their framing. And they use an analogy, something about a father and child.
Yes, a really powerful one. Contrasting a father who gives toys immediate fulfillment, temporary happiness, with a father preparing a full-grown son daughter for something much bigger, a real inheritance.
Which might involve not getting the immediate toys, withholding for long-term growth.
Precisely. And then the source just asks directly, which one do you prefer to be?
That really puts it starkly, doesn't it? Challenges you to think about what you really want from that relationship. Short-term fixes or long-term maturity, maybe?
Yeah, it forces a consideration of priorities. Comfort now or readiness for a greater purpose later.
The author then brings in John the Baptist from Luke's gospel, right? The prophecy about him preparing the way, his time in the desert. How does that connect?
Well, connecting it back, the author seems to see a parallel. Their own feeling of being maybe stripped down, isolated. They see it like John's wilderness time.
Okay. So like a preparation period, being molded away from distractions before some bigger purpose.
That seems to be the interpretation, yes. A time of strengthening, learning, directly from God, perhaps, without other interferences.
And this idea that God might even remove things we love if they risk hindering us from knowing him better. That's a challenging thought.
It is. It's a profound concept. And the author suggests this isolation, if it happens, isn't punishment. It's protection, even.
Protection, absolutely.
Protection from, say, untimely attacks while God does the teaching and molding. So the encouragement is not to fear that isolation, but see it as this unique classroom.
With God as the greatest teacher.
Right. Embrace it as a chance for growth.
And the ultimate point, the author concludes, is that in all circumstances, good or bad, the goal is God's glorification.
That's the final lens. It shifts the focus completely off our personal outcomes and onto a much larger divine purpose.
It gives a kind of ultimate meaning even to the struggles then. These aren't random setbacks, but potentially part of this bigger plan where the aim is honoring God.
That's the perspective offered, yes.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. We looked into when God cancels a promise. The core takeaway seems to be this author's view, that a perceived broken or delayed promise might actually be an act of divine sovereignty.
Right. A sovereignty aimed, in their understanding, at fostering a deeper kind of humility and preparing someone for a greater, maybe unseen purpose.
And it really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Between what we want now, our immediate desires, and this idea of a larger, unfolding divine plan that we might not grasp.
Definitely challenges that simple A to B idea of promise equals instant fulfillment.
Yeah. So it kind of encourages you listening to maybe think about unexpected difficulties differently. Could they be seen through this lens? Not just setbacks, but maybe opportunities. Opportunities for a deeper understanding of something bigger at play.
Which leads to that final thought for you to ponder. How does this perspective, this idea of deferred or altered expectations, resonate with you? With your own experiences, your faith, or even just your big life aspirations?
What does it really mean, to trust in a plan? Especially when it doesn't line up with what you understand or want right now. Something to definitely sit with. Welcome